Hello friends. Imagine handing an entire company's codebase, 50 million lines of Ruby code, to an AI on a Monday morning, and having a fully migrated codebase sitting on your desk by Tuesday. That is exactly what Stripe reported when they used Claude Fable 5 in early June 2026. A job their engineers estimated at over 2 months of team effort, done in a single day. That result crossed a practical threshold. It means a new class of AI model can now handle real production work at a scale and speed that genuinely changes how software gets built. And today, July 1st, Anthropic just restored Fable 5 for all users, after a brief government-ordered suspension. So right now is exactly the moment to understand how Fable 5 stacks up against every major competitor. Before we compare models, let's map Anthropic's own lineup so you know exactly where Fable 5 sits. Think of it as a 4-rung ladder. At the bottom you have Haiku 4.5, fast and cheap, great for high-volume simple tasks. Above that, Sonnet 4.6, a balanced everyday model. Then Opus 4.8, the powerful agentic workhorse priced at $5 per million input tokens and $25 per million output tokens. And sitting above all of those, added in June 2026, is Fable 5. This is a Mythos-class model, meaning it shares its weights with the restricted Claude Mythos 5, which only approved government partners in Project Glasswing can access. Fable 5 is the public version, with safety classifiers built in. It costs double Opus 4.8 at $10 and $50 per million tokens, and that price buys you a genuinely different tier of capability. Now let's put Fable 5 head-to-head with Opus 4.8. The headline number is SWE-Bench Pro, the industry's hard benchmark for real codebase work. Fable 5 scores 80.3%. Opus 4.8 scores 69.2%. That is an 11-point gap. And to appreciate how big that is, consider that Opus 4.8 itself sits nearly 11 points ahead of GPT-5.5 on the same test. Both models share a 1 million token context window and 128,000 max output tokens, but Fable 5 costs exactly double. The key architectural difference is the safety classifier layer. When Fable 5 receives a query touching cybersecurity or biology, it automatically routes that request to Opus 4.8 instead. Early data shows this fallback triggers on roughly 5 to 9% of requests, so the vast majority of your sessions run entirely on Fable 5's full capability. Let's compare Claude to GPT-5.5, which OpenAI released on April 23, 2026. GPT-5.5 is the omnimodal generalist. It handles image, audio, and video input natively, carries the widest plugin ecosystem in the industry, and as of February 2026, the ChatGPT platform had crossed 900 million weekly active users, a scale no competitor is close to. If your priority is multimodal breadth and consumer reach, GPT 5.5 is the clear leader. But flip over to coding. On SWE-Bench Pro, Fable 5 scores 80.3% versus GPT-5.5's 58.6%. That is a 21-point gap on production software engineering work. And on hallucination calibration, Opus 4.8 has a meaningfully lower hallucination rate than GPT 5.5 on the Artificial Analysis Omniscience benchmark. So the honest split is, ChatGPT wins on ecosystem and modalities, Claude wins on coding precision and factual calibration. Now Gemini 3.1 Pro, Google's flagship, released February 19, 2026. Gemini has two genuine edges. First, price. At $2 per million input tokens and $12 per million output tokens, it is the cheapest frontier model available, 5 times cheaper than Fable 5 on inputs. If you are running high-volume workloads, that math matters. Second, scientific reasoning. Gemini 3.1 Pro scored 94.3% on GPQA Diamond, a graduate-level science benchmark written by domain PhDs. That is currently the highest score any public model has posted on that test. Gemini also has native video and audio input baked in, not bolted on. Where Claude wins is coding. On SWE-Bench Pro, Fable 5 is at 80.3%, while Gemini 3.1 Pro sits at 54.2%, a 26-point gap. For multi-file production coding and reliable long-horizon agents, Claude leads. The most architecturally interesting competitor is Grok 4.20 from xAI, released in February 2026. Its defining feature is a built-in 4-agent system. Every complex query you send automatically gets handed to 4 specialized sub-agents simultaneously. One researches using real-time data from X. One handles logic and math. One looks for counter-arguments. And an orchestrator synthesizes the final answer. You see one response, but 4 agents debated it internally. Grok also carries a 2 million token context window, double Fable 5's 1 million. And it has a live feed into the X social graph, which is a genuine advantage for anything needing real-time market or news signals. Where Claude pulls ahead is production software. On SWE-Bench verified, Fable 5 hits 95% versus Grok 4.20 78%, and Claude's deep integration into tools like Cursor and GitHub Copilot gives it a stronger foothold in actual developer workflows. Alright, let's land the key takeaway. The model tier that is right for you depends almost entirely on your use case, not brand loyalty. For long-horizon hard coding and agentic tasks, Claude Fable 5 is the clear leader, with 80.3% on SWE-Bench Pro and the Stripe migration as real-world proof. For cost-sensitive agentic work, Opus 4.8 gives you 69.2% on the same benchmark at half the price. If multimodal breadth matters, with image, audio, and video inputs, plus the widest plugin ecosystem, GPT-5.5 and its 900 million plus user platform wins. For graduate-level science and API value, Gemini 3.1 Pro at 94.3% GPQA Diamond and $2 per million tokens is hard to beat. And for real-time data, Grok 4.20's LiveX integration and 2 million token context are genuinely unique. The gap between these models is the narrowest it has ever been. If you found this helpful, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.